Welcome to the Lightning Talks. Now, I want to make a couple things clear. This is not the Lightning Talks. We will not be doing any illuminating. If you learn something, please write into the sponsors of the event and complain. Don't take notes. Just enjoy and embrace and get involved. This is also not the Lightning Talks. Now, does anyone know what the definition of this word is? That's what I thought. This is what it apparently stands for. Anyway. So you learn something. This is... I'm a doctor, and I'm telling you this is... It starts with spelling it correctly. This is the spelling of lightning. And all right, so let's go through some things. First, time limits. Time limits are very important. It does come with the definition of the event. So we're going to have two time limits. There are going to be 300-second talks and 60-second talks. Now, I think that's mathematically correct. I did a guess. The definition of a 60-second one is two parts. One is it's 60 seconds. The other is you don't get a projector. And so they will be interlaced between the 5-minute talks. We have the lovely Inez, this is the lovely Inez, and she has, more importantly, I know Inez, and the only reason she's lovely is she has the lovely timer. So put the timer up. This is what makes her lovely. No, she's not. No. And so preparation. I've watched many lightning talks, and I thought I'd at least put a couple ideas. So this is for you gentlemen and ladies, a couple of thoughts. One, God bless, if I could teach this to the universe of people who are in a hurry. When you come up, you'll probably, 50% of the time, need to toggle between mirror display and not. Command F1 is the hotkey for you. So for the people at the back who are about to leave, take that piece of information. 1-minute talks. Although it's 60 seconds, that does not excuse you from speaking so fast that we wish it was like a 10-second talk. Please speak slowly, and top tip, one idea. 5-minute talks, we have the lovely Tom. Who doesn't qualify as lovely enough to get a photo, it seems. He is going to help you set up your mic before it's time for you to come up, and you're going to come up with the 1-minute person to set up your machine. So that's going to make it smooth and awesome. And what else have we got? And you're probably interested in who's talking today. So I was, and there was a whiteboard. Remember, everyone put on the whiteboard. All these people are here because they figured out how to use a whiteboard. And then someone erased the whiteboard. And so that was awesome. So we went for the next best thing, which is a GIST. So we fortunately, and whoever, I apologize, what was written on the whiteboard was documented by someone. Who was that person? You're awesome. Thank you very much for writing all of them down. Please clap for that person. So if you want to get the list, you want to see in advance people at the back, whether you still not sure where you want to take a seat, go there and make a call. So, what do we got first, Tom? The lovely Tom. Because I should go to the GIST. I could do that. I remember why we did this now. Professionals. Oh, mind. Look at all those tabs. Do I have internet? That's the other thing. Tom, this could suck badly. Oh, here we go. No, we're good. It's thanks to the wonders of the modern browser, I don't have to do anything else. All right, so we're good. We got Dan, and we've got the 1 minute, because you haven't interlaced them. I don't want to say you did anything wrong, Tom, in front of all these people. Yeah, if anyone could fix this so it's interlaced, I'd really appreciate it. You ready? You're good? Yep. Could you please put your hands together for our very first speaker, the one that only the people at the back are going to watch and then leave, Dan.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Dan. I'm actually a senior in high school. And Thank you. It's tough. and an iOS developer. So this talk is going to be kind of Objective-C oriented. So for those of you who aren't in that universe, hold on tight. So I picked up Rails a few years ago, and I love it. But when I started writing iOS apps that were backed by Rails servers, I ran into a problem. I needed to find an easier way to bridge the gap between Objective-C and Rails without having to do tons of HTTP requests, and even then, having to parse and unparse JSON. And there are libraries like RESTKit, which I know the Travis app uses, but it wasn't as integrated with Rails as I had hoped. And there was also a project called Objective Resource a few years ago that did what I wanted, but it was too obtrusive and wasn't very configurable, and they dropped support. So I created NSRails. So NSRails integrates into your Objective-C classes, giving them active resource-like support, just so you can just work like it, just like you would work with them in a Rails environment. So it's super simple. NSRails is a drop-in framework, and that means you can literally just drag and drop the classes straight into Xcode. It's even easier than gem install, sorry. So the following are literally all the steps you need to do to get NSRails started. First, you set up your Rails app URL during your setup. And that's just like with a setup method when the app first launches. And so for those of you who aren't really familiar with Objective-C, it may look a bit like gibberish, but all it's really doing is just setting an app URL property for a default config singleton, one-liner. Next, you make the Objective-C class that corresponds to a Rails model. So let's say your Rails app is a message board or a blog. You'll have an article model in your Rails app. There's your Ruby code. And in Objective-C, that's just how you declare a class in Objective-C. As you can see, it derives from just regular object and has a title and content, both strings. And by the way, this is stuff you should already be doing if you're writing a client app, duplicating your models. And for the last step, instead of inheriting that class from NS object, which is just the base class in Objective-C, you inherit from NSRails model, which is given to you by NSRails. And that's it. So now what? Now we have access to all of the methods that NSRails model gives us for free. So just for example, article remote all. That'll be like in Ruby R, article.all. That's just a class method on article or any subclass of NSRails model. And that's the equivalent of our article.all. So it does a GET request to /articles, and it'll return us an array of article objects. A bit more common example, remote object with ID, that's your article.find. So that's going to go to article/1 or whatever ID you put in there and returns an article object, an instance of that class. But it's important to remember that these are actually article objects. They're not like hash or dictionary or anything. So you can actually use the title and content from that instance itself. So NSRails will actually automatically take those two remote Rails attributes and store them in your local article object. So those are class methods, but once we have an instance of that class, like an article, what can we do with it? So CRUD. So first off, remote create. If you have a new article instance, you can just create with it in one line with remote create. And that'll just send your local properties to the server in a post request, just like you would do in create in Rails. You have fetch, which will just get the latest properties of your object from Rails, update, and destroy. You get the idea. And of course, CRUD won't solve all your problems. If you're exposing a REST method outside of CRUD in your controller, that can be called too. So all those methods, so you can call custom REST methods, and they're all asynchronous too, which is important in a mobile app because you don't want to leave your user hanging. Let's make it the Ruby object a bit more complicated on the server, so let's give it many comments. And here's our comments model. So article has many comments, and a comment belongs to an article. And ready for some Objective-C. There it is. Bam. Let's look at that again. So NSRails fully supports nesting. So when you fetch your article or do a remote all, those instances will be populated with the comment objects. And remember, those are all comment objects. So there are a lot more features and configures in NSRails. You can download it from GitHub or use it in your app. Or if you have the iPhone SDK and you want to play around with it, there's a demo app included that's actually just an iPhone app for the website, nsrails.com. And you can get started with it right out of the box, so there's no server required. And so you'll see NSRails is just a Rails app that is just a very simple message board, so you can just play around with it. And that's it. You can check out nsrails.com. From there are links to the source on GitHub, wiki with full documentation, and a screencast. And there's my obfuscated Twitter handle. And if you have any questions, please contact me at danhassan@mac.com. And that's it. Thank you.
I'm here to present WinTow. It's a headless BDD JavaScript testing tool with a simulated DOM. Allows you to use jQuery. It runs each spec file in isolation and it also supports CoffeeScript. It's in a pretty early stages, but it's also really fast. To show that, I was gonna let you see that. It runs the full Jasmine spec suite in about 0.3 seconds, and it also integrates nicely with TextMate. That's it.
So please put your hands together for Ruby hero, Tony Arciero.
All right, there we go, sweet. So my name is Tony Arcieri, and I am care mad about how the Ruby community perceives threads. So most Rails apps in production today can only do one thing at a time. Is anybody in here actually using thread save mode in production? That's about what I expected there. So I think that's bad, right? So you have a Rails app, you get a request coming in, and then it's going to go to an external service like a database, right? And when it's doing that, your app is sitting around doing nothing. I think that's madness. So Rails has been able to do more than one thing at a time since Rails 2.2. It does that with threads. To enable thread save mode, all you gotta do is go into your production.rb file, find this line, and uncomment it, and you're done. That's it. You don't need to make any major architectural changes to your app, and it will service multiple requests. So this bothers me a lot, right? So you look at languages like Java, for example, or C++ or C, and threads are everywhere. Everybody uses them, and people actually like them. In Ruby, that's not the case. We have this attitude that you just don't want to deal with concurrency. Well, the problem is it's too late because you're already doing it. You're already doing concurrency in your database, and I'm sure you have a handle on it, right? So most databases use threads, and your app should too. If you're dealing with concurrency in your database, you're losing on you're losing on the easy things. So with thread save mode, you can have one VM service multiple requests. So you might be wondering, won't that global interpreter lock get in the way there? And the answer is no. Whenever you do I/O in Ruby, it releases the GIL. If you're using a C extension to talk to your database or something, that can release the GIL too. So the next problem is, are all your gems thread safe? Because they do need to be thread safe, and there's a site, railsplugins.org, that tracks the thread safety of several libraries. You see there's only 100 or so there, but maybe if more people start using thread safe mode, we can get more into this database. So the biggest problem with thread safe mode is eager loading. So when you boot your app in thread safe mode, it loads all your code at once, but it won't automatically look in lib. So if you have this example model here and your thing Frobber is in lib and you start up your app in thread safe mode, you'll probably run into this. It'll say it can't find it, right? And you're gonna be like, why? Why can't it find my code? The problem is you're loading your code wrong. So you should require your dependencies out lib with require dependency. Looks a little bit like that. This will automatically take care of reloading those things when the model changes, and you'll be all good. So I mentioned the GIL earlier, right? Where the GIL actually matters is multi-core. So we have hit the power wall. We can't make CPUs run faster, but we can have more cores and attack them all at once. And the number of cores in CPUs is growing exponentially. You have the AMD bulldozer. You have one CPU with 16 cores. So why would you run n virtual machines when you could just run one, right? You're complecting the problem, basically. And threads are more efficient. You can get higher throughput. The Spiceworks guys were talking about that yesterday. They doubled their throughput and cut their CPU usage in half. We have 2 awesome Ruby implementations that support multi-core parallelism. So my dream for Rails 4, get enough people using it that this actually makes sense. We can turn thread safe mode on by default. Thanks.
Sweet. All right, so my talk is called tenderlove.dupe, which does not mean that I want to clone tenderlove. Not true, I do. But, so open source software happens because, holy crap, I'm running out of time. All right, so AT&T Interactive pays Aaron to work full-time on software for the open source community, which is awesome, and we love them for it. We love him. I want more Aarons. They have hundreds of employees. They can afford to consume one person or 3. My shop is 10 people. We can't afford to pay an entire additional salary just to work on open source software. What we could do is team together with 8 other shops and get one position out of that, and then duplicate that. And that's my idea. And if you out-execute me, that's awesome. We all win. If not, we'll see how it goes. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to come down here and kind of go back and forth so I can point at stuff. Hopefully I don't get feedback, but we've been hearing these scary words, and the scary word that we keep hearing is thread, right? Well, JavaScript does threads too, and it does it with workers. And I'm going to show you guys a cool little trick with JSON-P to start to move some of your calls into threads. So we just have, our basic HTML thing. We're loading a couple JavaScript files at the bottom. And what we've got going here, you can see, is that we've got a worker that starts up at the top, and it's oh, I need to make that bigger, don't I? Let me help you. Sorry, my font is way too small. You guys like that better? Okay. More. Cool. So we start up our worker, and we're doing our thing that I'll show you later here, and this is just our little slideshow. She's Twitter Bootstrap slideshow, nothing fancy. And at the bottom, we're posting a message to our worker. And here's what our worker does. It's just 3 simple things. The important one to know is this import scripts. This is really cool. What this lets you do, whoops, I need to go this way. And let me scroll up a little here. This is basically just, bringing in external scripts. Well, you can grab scripts from other places. And you can do just like a JSON-P would do, and if you stick in your callback there, you can return it to a function inside your worker. And then you've effectively moved this whole thing over to the worker. And my example is pretty cheesy. All it's really doing is populating a lame slideshow from RailsConf, but the things that you can do that are really neat is you can actually populate external databases and stuff. So if you have a web SQL database or an IndexedDB database, you can populate the whole thing inside your worker and do it all on a separate thread from the main thread. So it can all happen in the background. If we refresh this, because the internet's so crappy, it takes a long time, but it doesn't kill what's going on, and there you go. I've used this with large requests. I've used it with just 1 or 2. I've used it and spawned up tons of things, and you can spawn other workers that can read that import scripts and send off whatever processing is supposed to happen to another worker, and this one can just handle your requests and do like that. So yeah, there you go. Just a little trick to try out and maybe speed up your front-end code.
Hi. Hello. My name's Amanda, and I'm here from New Zealand. And I just wanted to talk to you about a problem I had and a solution that I'm trying to get you guys to help me with. We had a couple of new developers start at our company, and I went looking for all the awesome things there are on the internet to learn Ruby and Rails. And there are so many amazing resources, but I couldn't find any list of all, like a complete list of everything. I mean, people put them up from time to time, but they get out of date. So I've made a site called iwantolearnruby.com. It's on GitHub. It's hosted on GitHub. It's open source. If you'd go there, add the things that you use, love, recommend to people, hopefully we can get something that will be really useful for newcomers to the community. So yeah, iwantolearnruby.com, and there's a link to GitHub in the footer. Thank you very much.
All right, there we go. I want to talk about what private teams can learn from open source. First, I want to talk about what to adopt, why to adopt it, and how to adopt it. We all love open source. We love using it. We love the philosophy behind it. We love the free as in beerness of it. We love the free as in speechness of it. But beyond that, open source provides us a model for private development. So what if this model could reduce bugs in production and give us a better talent pool to choose from? So how many private teams want to reduce bugs in production and have a better talent pool to choose from, right? Everybody, right? All right, so reducing bugs. What's the best way to reduce bugs? Hour for hour, there's no other development method that reduces bugs more than something that they talked about in Code Complete. It's not unit testing like we would all love to believe. It's not even integration testing or Capybara or anything else like that. The thing that actually does the most is code reviews. So in private teams, what typically happens, at least in our team, what happened before we did this was we had, hey, come over here and look at this, and then as soon as the shit hits the fan, you kind of throw that out, right? Everything just gets pushed straight to master. Well, open source does it differently, right? Open source uses pull requests. So it's easy to set this up for your private team. You can fork for free, even private repos on GitHub. Doesn't count against your repository limit. You can submit the pull request. There's tons of resources on how to do that. Let the whole team review it, top to bottom, and then merge. If somebody else, if you don't see the little green button, let the person who submitted the pull request go rebase it. That way they get to figure out what works for them, and you get to make sure that they didn't screw stuff up on the back end. The disadvantage is that it's a more complicated process. It's a lot slower than just typing git push, and there's a little more knowledge to Git required. But the advantage is that all the code gets reviewed. Everyone gets to see the coding styles. Everyone gets to see the problem solutions, and everyone from the most junior person on the team to the most senior person gets input. And as a bonus, you get to criticize people's Git history, cleanliness, and stuff like that, and they learn over time, right? So, okay, let's talk about a little bit about how open source gets a better talent pool. The Rails core team has people from 6 different countries on it, and they have committers from all over the place, right? That's because open source is distributed from the start. The communication is done in mailing lists and chats and bug tickets, and distributed communication equals a distributed team, period. So what if your team simply acted distributed? It's really easy to do. You get HipChat or Campfire or IRC and make it to where people can virtually overhear conversations. Get a mailing list or a message board if you need it to have bigger conversations. We didn't feel like we needed that, but that's an okay thing to do. Just make sure it's open. Then have an internal blog if you need it to kind of keep the culture so somebody who's new comes on can just kind of read and catch up on what's going. And then I just encourage you to use something like Google Hangout or Skype or some kind of video conferencing that lets you see each other's face. That kind of keeps the personal stuff going on. That's part of the awesomeness of being on a team like that. So it requires a little bit more discipline. Instead of just waving at the guy who has the earplugs in, you actually have to type something into a chat bar. And more intentionality. You have to really think through what you're about to say. And it could reduce personal interaction, but that's not what we actually found on our team. We had all the communication logged. Everyone participated from anywhere, even the guy who had his, was taking care of his sick kid at home. Everyone can review or catch up, like our boss who was gone for a day at a sales call. And anybody can be added to the team from anywhere, so now you're not so limited by locality. As a bonus, it actually reduced distraction because you end up not waving at people. You end up letting people go to the communication when they're ready. Okay, so my challenge to you all is this. If you're part of a private team, make it a distributed set of code reviewers, boost the communication, reduce the bugs, and hire from anywhere. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jawo, and I'm going to talk about Sidekick in 1 minute, because that's all I need to show you how cool it is. So Sidekick is a distributed message queue, just like Rescue. It is crazy easy to install. Your mileage may vary, but we've seen reports, it's Mike Perham's, about Rescue reducing from 20 down to 1 worker. So I created a simple little example. Just want to show you what you have to do. So you bundle exec Sidekick, and that gets it working. And if you're in a Rails app, you don't even have to tell it where your workers are, but we're doing it here. And we're going to run the code. So you have a worker perform async. Let's just run it. So if we run it, it's just 10 times done something. and it's doing it, boss. And that's it. So that's all you have to do. Now the super secret sauce, I've got 3 seconds, is requires sidekick Capistrano, and that's all you do in production. That's it, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to talk about modeling. How do you do database modeling on Rails? To recall ancient Java era, we used something like this. This is a Eclipse plugin, and we can edit DB tables on this diagram and export SQLD data script. We have same thing on Microsoft Visual Studio. So how we do it on Rails? Actually, we don't usually use such a nice looking IDE because every Rails programmer uses Vim, right? Or Emacs. So in order to do it in our command line interface, we have migrations. For instance, let me just copy and paste this slide. For instance, it works like this, like this, like this. Yeah, it's working, lovely. So, don't we need a modeling tool? I don't think so. Migration files are just a text information. It's really hard to see the picture of the whole database structure. So what the modern Rails programmers use for visualizing database? This. Apparently, everybody uses whiteboard, right? It is very good for modeling, but it's not digital. I mean, whiteboards usually don't generate migration files. So we have to repeat ourselves on whiteboard and web computers. And actually have some gems that generate your diagram in PDF format, but PDF files are static. I mean, it's not for modeling, it's just for documentation, right? So, for this purpose, I think I created something very awesome during this conference. So, let me quickly show you. Bundle, ERD, and bundle. I need to copy and paste something. Bundle assets. Require ERD and require ERD. Oops. That's it. Oh, I have 1 more minute. So this is a Rails engine, actually. So localhost ERD. That's it. It loads the It loads the database structure from the application, and it visualizes like this. It's beautiful, isn't it? Not only that, we can interact lively. We can edit on it. So, like, we can drag the position and change table name like this and edit columns. Actually, it generates a migration file, I think. Wow. Ooh. No, it's not working. I'm sure it can. Thanks so much.
Hey, like a lot of the other 1-minute speakers, I'm on a mission. I'm here to make your job suck less. I'm here to talk about Row, what it is, and how it's awesome. This was a work management philosophy that was started out of Best Buy, and it boils down to a very simple equation. Instead of trading your time for money, you need to be trading your results for money. So what do you produce in a week. Instead of saying I need to be there for 40 hours, I've got to be at the office at 9 a.m. or in 5. Instead, in Row, it's did you get done what is necessary to get done? Did you get done what your client expects or your boss or whatever? You don't need to be in the office to get this done. You can be working off in the beach with your Mai Tai. You can be working in your commute to the office and back and forth. So this is all it takes. We do this stuff. My name is Jonathan Wallace. It's at highgroove.com. That's where I work. We do Row, and if you're not doing it, you need to figure out how to get it done. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start while Jason tries to figure that out. We're Jason Lewis and Micah Gates. We wrote a gem, this Rails conf entitled Job Interview. It helps you with job interviews, and it doesn't help you with time limits either. So, you too, baby. All right, perfect, good enough. So, interviewing sucks. You get asked a whole bunch of dumb questions and have to perform stupid programmer tricks.
Like FizzBuzz, for instance, popular one, and so they expect you to do something like that on a whiteboard.
But instead, you can just require job interview. And we will provide you with FizzBuzz.
I will buy you if you need that.
But wait, there's more. Fibonacci sequences?
Recursive and iterative implementations. You'll notice they're the same, proving the formal equality.
Equine? You want the first n primes? You can have the first n primes.
So, this saves you tons of time.
It's easier than actually solving problems yourself.
And it demonstrates to your prospective employers that you use libraries to address previously solved problems rather than reinventing the wheel. Okay.
Okay, they know I can code, now what?
Personality questions. Everybody lies when they get asked these. How awful would it be if you actually had to confront your greatest weaknesses in job interviews?
Like your fear of clowns, the fact that you've never felt loved, your raging alcoholism.
So, with the job interview gem, you don't even have to make up your own bullshit. Can I swear? Is that cool?
DHH does all the time, it's fine. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Whole bunch of answers.
Why are you leaving your current position?
More non-threatening bullshit.
Why are manhole covers round?
Snarky bullshit.
What is your greatest weakness?
Bullshit that doesn't make you look bad.
Why do you want to work here?
More bullshit.
Does P equal NP?
More snarky bullshit.
Will it work?
Our test suite is really good, so we're pretty sure that it will work. If it doesn't, send us a pull request with fixes.
The real question, why would we even do this?
We wanted to hack on something.
Silly gems are fun to make.
And really, everybody hates job interviews.
So don't waste your time. Gem install job interview. Apparently 160 people already like it.
Some of them are robots. So, thank you very much for allowing us to waste 3 minutes and 45 seconds of your time. We are Micah Gates and Jason Lewis on Twitter.
And if those URLs weren't truncated, you could see where to get it, but just search Ruby Gems.
Like, you can Google for it. Google's great. It knows about us.
So
We're on the internet. Say what? Question?
not at the moment,
My
but...
boss is here. I love you, man.